What's going on, everybody? In this segment, we're going to be doing the advanced short variation. And you could probably tell a huge difference in the octave of my voice compared to the last video. It's because I've been recording straight for hours. So, in this variation, it's the advanced. So, same, E4, C6, D4, D5. And when white marches to E5, it's always, bring your bishop out to F5. I do just want to mention that it is possible to push your C pawn here if you want two different, versions. So you, like some, I'm brain dead right now. I've been up most of the night. Uh, Variety, per se. A lot of people won't know how to handle, and it'll throw them out a book really fast if you play the C5 variation. But you have to understand that everything is going to be different, and you're going to have to learn a whole different slew of lines. So it is called the short variation, not because like the length of the lines. It's named after Nigel Short, which is the current vice president of FIDE. He was the highest he was ever ranked, I think, was fourth or third. I think he was third. I think it was about 1990, I want to say, after the Karpov era when he was reigning. Anywho, kind of veering off subject here. After you develop your bishop to F5, standard move is F3, knight development in the short variation. And once you close up the structure in the short variation, the bishop gets developed to E2. And we're going to do a little something different for this segment because I feel it's kind of needed. It's the evaluation of where that .03 comes from and the other possible moves like the runner-up after that, and what those evaluations are. Because when I mentioned that a move doesn't work, and then 2 minutes later, it's like that move does work, a simple knight being developed on the other side of the board can influence things drastically. And I want to show you that. So once the bishop comes out, in the Caro-Kann, you gotta strike when the iron's hot. You can't play passively. So you don't want to develop your knight here and, move a pawn that's not touching anything. You gotta attack, attack, attack. So that pawn on D4, you gotta attack. You push the C6 pawn to C5, hitting that. And white's going to add a defender with E3. And there's two pieces you can bring in to add an attacker to the D4 pawn. One does a better job because it's multi-purpose. The knight would just bring in an attacker, and I guess also would be attacking the E5 pawn. But as I've said several times, the queen on B6, not only is it adding an indirect attacker to B4, because once the pawn attacks, then it's a clear path, and then it would be attacking. It adds a defender to your C5 pawn, and it hits that weakness on B2 that's not defended by anything currently. And in previous lines, the queen moves over. The queen's serving a purpose right now, guarding that D4 pawn. So once the queen is developed, the knight will jump to C3, looking to poke around some business. And we go ahead and develop our knight to C6, hitting that pawn third time. From here, this is what I'm going to show the evaluation. If white brings its knight to a4, you want to throw in a check. And the only way to block the check and defend the knight would either be to bring it back or to push up the pawn, because now the queen guards the knight. And if that's the case, what happens? We go ahead and push up the c pawn, plugging up the hole. And white would march up, attacking your queen with the b pawn. Now we don't want to capture by en passant, because that's a nice pawn that's sitting on c4, and when they capture, that just makes their pawn skeleton much better than yours on the queen side. And now when that knight moves, that rook is ready to attack the queen and come in on the backside to your area, and it's not going to be good. So you got to run with your queen. And you run all the way back to d8 because it's covering the h4 square, so the knight can't jump here and attack your bishop, because that bishop is really strong as well right now. I mean, technically, we could always move a knight here, and we wouldn't have to worry about it because we could recapture it, and that's a sweet spot for a knight too. But knowing that we can guard it and prevent that knight from jumping there, we're going to do so. And that's basically that line as far as that goes. I mean, we can definitely, you know, take it a lot farther, but I think that's good for now. I mean, it would castle. We can move up this pawn, preventing anything from jumping to g5. This knight could jump back to e1 after that. What we got over here? This rook can come over to c8. This pawn could be pushed to f4, move our bishop back. This pawn gets pushed back to g4. We could then push our pawn to b6, preventing the knight from jumping in on the c5 square. This knight could come back and maneuver. That's why we moved it back in the first place to g2. We can bring our bishop in on e4, attacking that knight. It can defend it with the bishop on f3. We can go ahead and kill that bishop. They could recapture it with the rook. And since that rook has an entrance to invade on our king side, we can take away the h5 and f5 square, double up with the g-pawn, and the rook comes over to the h-file, and then we go ahead and march up with the king. So, I mean, it's definitely more to go, but that's just an example of a line. So if the knight doesn't jump to a4, this is where it splits off. Now, if you look here, this is what I'm talking about. If you take the queen, instead of jumping up with the knight, if you take the queen and capture that pawn, the queen to b1 is positive for white. And it's not good to take that pawn because it's in white's advantage. Because if you captured the queen, they would recapture, and now, you know, they got access to come in your territory. And you can't guard that b pawn and your c pawn at the same time. Because if you don't do anything about the c pawn, it's hanging. And your best bet would be, you know, to march this up, but they could still come in, and there's no way to stop them from coming in without making a hole. So you would be forced to march up your C pawn, and now they would come in and get their pawn back, and they are definitely all up in your Kool-Aid. It's not going to be good. So that was a positive value. So I wanted to show a difference of why this line was. So you take this pawn, it gives it a positive evaluation for white. Now, if instead of when you bring up that horse, if they castle instead of bringing over the knight, right? Now you can take that pawn. Because the only move now that is positive for white is if they move the knight here to b5. You look at everything else, it's all negative. QE1 now is a negative score, all because it's castled. So that's basically what I wanted to show out. I mean, I know it's going back and forth and changing, but I'm just showing that the scores are different. So it's a whole different scenario, and that's why in this situation I'm saying capture that b pawn, where before it would be a mistake. So here, white would, this is the second line, would come in on b5, threatening to fork your king and rook, and that is when you take away its defender, the bishop. It would add a defender indirectly by attacking your queen with a rook. Once you move your queen, the knight is then guarded. So from here, you would go ahead and gobble up that a2 pawn, and white would come in and fork your king and rook with the knight. You go ahead and sidestep, and it would take your rook. And that's when you come in with the bishop attacking the rook and queen. White is going to play the card that, yeah, I'll let you kill my queen, but I'm going to take your queen too. And the way it works out is that you take their queen, they take your queen, you take their bishop, they take your bishop. So the order is bishop take queen, rook take queen, bishop take bishop, rook take bishop. And then black's move from here is to develop the bishop to b4, taking away those dark squares by the white rooks. And if you look at the evaluation here, you will kill the knight in the corner, and that leaves you with 4 pieces and white with 4 pieces. They do have an exchange up because they have a rook for a knight, but you have 3 passed pawns. The A, B, and C file are all passed pawns, which they're going to race quick, and you can promote and get a queen out of those. So you have plenty of compensation for the exchange of a knight for their rook. And if you look at the evaluation, dead nuts, 0. So it's even. Both you guys got a chance. It's, you know, the stronger player shall prevail. And a couple things I want to mention over here, going back to this position right here. The reason why when you move your queen here and they move their knight, the reason why you don't go for the queen right away is because white has a positive evaluation, and they can just move their knight, their rook over, attacking your queen. And there's very little that you can do. I mean, you can't take that rook, obviously. Oh, I'm sorry. Big mistake. You know, when they put their queen there, you don't have any option. You can't take the horse, the knight, because then they would move their bishop to d2, attacking your queen, and now you are falling behind. The only square that is safe to move your queen to now is A3, and that's horrible. It's plus 10 now. So you would more or less have to cut your losses and take a rook for your queen, and that would be a uphill battle playing the rest of the game. So you can't take the knight. You technically could, I guess, dip over in the corner, but now the queen's coming down and taking your b pawn. So if you get greedy and take that b pawn, your best bet, bailing on b4. And you know, you're stuck. If you look at what the best moves are for white, you know, what happens when the d takes the c pawn and takes out your defender? Now what are you going to do? I mean, your bishop can come in and take the pawn. So there's a reason behind the madness on why certain moves work and other moves don't. But that'll go as far as the short variations. About all the information you need to carry on. Hope you got something out of it, and I'll catch you on the next vid.